guys, Nick Alt, the Ozark Angler here. Today I want to talk to you about putting brush in the lake. A lot of us avid anglers like to put some brush piles out there that we try to keep ourselves for a couple of years, but with today's modern technology, any kind of brush piles or anything, rock piles like that, those are found pretty quickly. It is unfortunate that modern technology is capable of doing that, but at the same time it helps us become better and more confident anglers, because that's just where the future is going, is towards electronics. Anyways, today I want to talk to you about what I do before I put a tree in the lake. First thing, most of us know that like in grass patches, like dark brown grass that's decomposing, fish don't go around that. I have the same feeling about that as far as throwing tree in the lake. If you leave the leaves on it, that's going to take time to decompose, and I guess it'd probably take about 6 months to really rot all the leaves off of it, especially if it's a green tree. So what I like to do is I like to go through and strip all the leaves off of a tree that I'm going to throw in the lake. Now, a lot of you guys that throw those full cedar trees in the lake, I see a lot of people throw them right in the lake, right while they're green. And I feel like that takes a lot of time to decompose, and that whole time it's decomposing, it's starving the oxygen around it. So I think the best thing for that situation is after Christmas, set your tree outside, let it die, let it turn brown, let all the needles fall off of it. Sometimes if I'm in a hurry to get in the lake, I'll throw it out there, let it sit outside, let the needles turn brown. I'll get a hose out if it's not too cold, light the thing on fire, let it flash burn, then put the fire out, and you've completely cleared all the needles off. You just throw it in the lake. It'll take a little bit of a while for that burnt smell to get away from it, but you'll get fish in there way before you would if you just left all the leaves on it. But anyways, let me show you what I've got going on here. I've got 3 trees that are getting ready to go in. I have 2 already prepped, and I'll show you in detail those, and then I got 1 that I'm getting ready to do now, and I'll show you the steps that I do to prepare that. So what I do is I go around on this bigger tree and I just rip all the leaves off of it, just like this. Now the next thing you need to ask yourself is, what are you fishing for? Are you going to be fishing for bass, crappie, anything of that sort, panfish? The smaller the species of fish, the less space it needs to swim in and out. As a bass angler and as a tournament fisherman, I want big bass producing brush piles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break off a lot of the little bitty branches on that. I'm not going for crappie, and a bass will hang on any bit of structure. I mean, you can fish an entire bank, and if there's one PVC pipe sticking out of the water that's a 1/4 inch around, that's 9 times out of 10 where that fish would normally be located. So any kind of structure, no matter how big, thick, or thin the brush pile, any bit will draw a fish to it. So I peel off all the branches, because when you think about it, a fish has no way to maneuver through all that other than to swim through it. And when you see those fish with the sores on their side and stuff like that, that's because either they were darting from a predator and scraped up against a branch and it caused it to rub the skin, or scales were off. So a bigger fish is going to have trouble getting through all of that. So what I do is make it easier for them, and I take all the little bitty twigs and open up that brush pile and make it a lot more spacious for them, because a big bass needs a big area to move. You know, they're pretty nimble, but if you make it easier for them to get in and out, they're going to spend more time in that brush pile. Now let me take you over to the 2 that I've already got done. I'll show you how I thinned them out and made them look really, really presentable. Now this one here, I went through and pulled all the little bitty twigs. I left a couple of these on here just because as I'm pulling the bait through it, I can sometimes get the jig or worm to hang up on that, and I can pull it up and vertical. And if a fish is sitting underneath it, no matter how it lands in the water, that's another way to get a vertical presentation while you're dragging it through the brush. So that helps, leaving a few of those on there. Now this one's a little bit bigger, but I left some of the bigger pieces on it, and it's a little bit thicker because this is going to be probably in a little bit more low current area. If you have a lot of current, it means you need a lot of weight. The bigger the brush pile and a lot of current, the bigger the weights have to be. And we'll talk about the weights in just a minute. Now if you look at this tree compared to that tree, see how gnarly this is? I mean, don't get me wrong, if you're a crappie fisherman, this is something you want to put in the lake. But if you're out there for those big bass, you want to clean it off. And it's really easy to clean up. Just go like that and you rip all of those off. See how much space I created there? And that bass doesn't have to worry about bumping and rubbing up against it. He can swim freely in and out. And that'll make for bigger fish getting in this big brush pile. This is going to be a good one. I'm going to probably put it down about 35 foot. That's where this one's probably going to go. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is how you weight your brush pile. You can use a 5-gallon bucket filled with concrete. You can use anything that's heavy. I try to use cinder blocks as long as they come out of a clean area. That way there's no contamination into the lake, and it helps protect and preserve the fish, and you can produce fish out of your brush pile way faster, especially if it's non-hazardous, no chemicals or anything like that. Now there's two types of cinder blocks I usually use: the standard 2-hole or the bigger 3-hole ones. Now the standard blocks like this I use for bigger trees. When I cut down a tree, or when I use a tree for a brush pile, I base it on the diameter of this hole. If I find a tree that won't fit in there, I don't even mess with it, because A, you're getting into something that's very hard to manage. You can't put on your boat, you can't move around, and to weight it down you need an astronomical amount of weight, almost more than 2 guys could even handle. Then the smaller trees with these cinder blocks with the 3 holes, the hole's a little bit smaller in it, and usually you only need 1, maybe 2 of these cinder blocks to hold that tree in place, and that's plenty of weight to make the job work right. So let me show you how I use this cinder block on this bigger tree. What I do is I take it and I shove the trunk through just like this, and now you have that on. I'll take another one, slide it on there, and then the next thing you need to do is try and tie these down. Now the way I tie these down is I use copper wire. I try not to use the insulated copper wire, but if that's what you have around, it'll work. I try not to use the insulated just because it is a plastic, it's in the lake. I mean, something silly, but it works. And basically, if you just use regular copper wire that you rip out of like an old house or something like that when you're wiring, just whatever scraps you have left over, wrap it around. The brush pile will probably deteriorate about the same time the copper wire does, finally corrode away. So in the end, and all you're really wanting it for is to get the tree down. The cinder blocks should lay there and hold them in place at that point. So, but with that being said, guys, I'm going to finish prepping this one and get it ready to go in the lake. I'm going to have an extra few brush piles this coming year, and hopefully they'll produce some giant fish. I hope this helped you guys, and hope that when you put your next brush pile in, maybe it'll produce bigger fish. Alright, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you on the water.